ID cards. I don't know if you noticed this in all the madness. Big announcement at the weekend. So from Starmer. ID cards. This is the future. ID cards. No mention in his speech, because over the weekend they did a poll. The day he stood up and said that ID cards, just before he said it, 35% of the UK public were in favour. 35%. The following day, after he'd mentioned ID cards, this is absolutely true. They did another poll, and did this impact on you? But minus 14% of this country. I don't know how you work that figure out. Now want ID cards. One of the most... Well, I'll read you a headline from The Sun today. The amazing Jack Elsom, political editor for The Sun. Burnham's been put back in his box, but if Starmer can't beat reform, he's toast. A very good afternoon to the incredibly hard-working Jack Elsom. How are you?
Good afternoon, Jeremy. Yes, I'm okay. I'm a bit bleary-eyed. I came back from Liverpool earlier this afternoon, and it's been a long couple of days up there at the Labour Party conference, be it both in the conference hall and the bars afterwards, where lots of the hard work of journalism really gets done.
I say that, and I look at you with a bottle of red wine over your right ear on the shelf at the back. I know you wouldn't have had a drink at all at Liberal Party conference, but I have to say this, fair play to Jack Elsom. I rang him this morning, he went, oh, just getting in an Uber. It's been a hard 3 days. Thank you for joining us, my friend. Great article.
No problem.
Page 10. Burnham's been put back in his box, but if Starmer can't beat reform, he's toast. Can I get your view? I spoke to Ryan yesterday, your deputy editor. I thought, and maybe I'm missing the point, it was one of the biggest political mistakes, and he's made a few, he could ever have made. If you are essentially, personal attacks happen all the time, I guess, but if you are essentially saying to the millions of people who are involved in interested by what Reform are saying, because they seem to have the pulse of the nation at their fingertips, you're labelling them racist. And today, of course, he's rowed back.
Well, I'm not sure whether it's a mistake or not. That will come out in time, but it's definitely a gamble. And I think what we saw from Keir Starmer in Liverpool over the weekend was a big key change, because essentially he is now trying to write the script for the next election, and he's doing two things. One, he's trying to paint Nigel Farage as such an unpalatable figure that most people in this country will just turn off him and think that actually he's not the one for them. And then secondly, he's trying to paint the next election as a straight shootout between Labour and Reform, so that if people are so put off by the horrible, monstrous racist, as he would say it, Nigel Farage, then the only thing which they can do is hold their nose and vote for Labour. The Tories not even at the races, and then other minor left-wing parties, the Greens and the Lib Dems, all coalesce around Starmer's banner in a basically big attempt to stop Nigel Farage getting into Downing Street. But as you said, it's incredibly risky, because I think what he's really done now, essentially, either by design or by accident, is told those millions of people that have flocked to Nigel Farage's banner in the past few months that actually he's not really interested in getting their vote back, because he thinks that they are essentially following what he describes in his own words as racist policies. Now, It's interesting that the fact that he has, and I think that many people now will see him descending into the gutter with these attacks, because, you know, the racism is not a word which you throw around lightly. You know, we can talk about David Lammy and deploying Hitler in the aftermath of Keir Starmer's speech, which I think just took it to a whole new low. But by basically saying that these people, who a lot of them voted Labour at the last election, a lot of them voted Labour and have now left in their droves because they see migration coming in unfettered numbers. They see hotels still proliferating every day, and they see crime in their streets. If you say to them that basically you're just following racist policies, then they're going to turn their backs. And so, you know, it's a very, very high-stakes gamble. Keir Starmer is banking on the fact that there'll be enough people put off by Nigel Farage, but you know what? I'm not sure there will be.
I think the interesting point is I don't doubt what you've said. I think the reason that I thought it was a huge own goal is because of something that I've said for weeks and months on this show, and I'm sure it bores people, certainly the production staff. I think the British people, the silent majority, have woken up. I don't think anymore, because of what's happened, how drained they are economically, financially, morally, legally, however you want to dress it up. I think millions more people who were perhaps switched off from politics have switched on because they feel feel that they're 28th in the queue, because they feel unfairly treated, because they've lived their lives correctly, and all of a sudden they feel they're being talked to. I don't think sound bites work anymore. I believe that Keir Starmer saying Nigel Farage is a racist, I think you're right, it will polarise, but it's not going to... I hate to make this analogy, but this is really, really interesting to me. I think there's great similarities between here and America. I mean, this is a really interesting text. We just played a clip of Ed Miliband standing up and saying, Elon Musk, get the hell out of British politics. Now, Jodie doesn't know this, but this is a fact, right? Listen to this, right? I'm no big fan of Elon Musk, but it's a bit rich for Labour to say, get out of our politics, when they sent an army of volunteers from Labour to America to help Kamala Harris beat Donald Trump. True or false?
Yeah, no, that is true. And obviously Donald Trump was incredibly angry and incensed by that at the time. I don't really know what Ed Miliband thinks that what he's doing by picking a fight with Elon Musk. I mean, most people in this country will go, we want you to get our energy bills down. We don't
That's
care
what I'm
your
talking
opinions
about.
are
Absolutely.
on Silicon Valley giants. And I think that, for him to sort of, try and butt heads with Elon Musk in a sort of weird attempt to look tough. We remember, obviously, Ed Miliband, he's very tough, as he said when he ran for leader back in 2015. But I think that most people would say, get your energy bills down. And if that means that, we have to use the power beneath our feet, as Donald Trump's doing in America, then let's go down that path. Poll after poll has shown that people would rather prioritise getting energy bills down than prioritising eco schemes. And so if that's what the public are telling them, then that's what they should do, because at the moment, Nigel Farage, Richard Tyson, the Reform Party, they have stood on a platform of getting rid of a lot of this net zero stuff, and clearly they are doing very well in the polls. But listen, I know we've talked about this before, but most people do not follow the cut and thrust of everyday politics.
Absolutely.
Most people really do not want politics to intrude on their lives. But over the past few years, it has become inescapable for them to avoid the big issues in this country when it comes to migration, when it comes to the pound in their pockets, and when it comes to crime. And it is those people that are really surging reform up the polls. And I fear that Keir Starmer yesterday didn't make as much of an attempt as he should have to try to understand and at least display that he understands their frustrations. And this whole shtick that he did about saying that Britain is not broken, Britain is a great country, that is undoubtedly correct. We are a fantastic country, and we are a tolerant, compassionate country. But people do see the mess around Britain every single day.
We're sinking in a sea of debt under a government that's based on an ideology that I think, and many people think, is more interested in looking good on the world stage. And you're so right. There was an opportunity for him yesterday to say, I hear you. I hear your concerns about the boats, about the NHS, about the lack of police, I saw a video just then about shoplifting. Appalling things are happening, right? You eulogise and you moralise like Sadiq Khan is in London. Get sorted with what's going on the streets. I also wanted to touch upon your article's fantastic. I was really interested in the other stories. Zia Yusuf was on Breakfast with MG. I knew this from weeks ago at the party conference when I hosted it with David Bull. Nigel Farage had his security cut by 75%. They didn't make that public, right? He has, through donors, been paying for private security for the last month. This came out yesterday because of the attacks from Starmer. Is it not a bit rich from Starmer to talk about, a caring society and this man is, basically just a gob, whatever, what the second part of the word is I'm going to say and I can't say, who rushes around the place and drolls up all this sort of divisive politics? I would have thought he did put him in danger, as well as offending millions of people. He did basically say, because everybody knows that in this country there are lines drawn, and I felt that speech was disgraceful on many fronts. The security thing's an issue, plus I also love your opinion on this. To say that Nigel Farage and Reform are unpatriotic and don't like the United Kingdom left me almost more gobsmacked yesterday, Jack, than the accusation that their policies are racist.
Yeah, and listen, the rough and tumble of politics is always going to involve some low blows, that's for sure. Unfortunately, we live in a time where, political violence seems to be on the rise. And we've obviously had some horrific high-profile cases, be it Joe Cox, be it David Amos, be it Charlie Kirk over in America. And, most people in this country, do exercise their democratic right to protest respectfully. And let's be honest, people are angry out there on both sides of the divide, but it's when the anger tips over into totally disproportionate and unacceptable violence that we should be worried. And so listen, I obviously think that Nigel Farage has made a career of putting his head above the parapet, one, but also actually going out there onto the streets and talking to people. You talk to Nigel Farage, and he's very proud of the fact that he sort of does walk around throughout the street, doesn't really manage them and choreograph them like other leaders do. And so, listen, obviously, I hope that nothing comes of this, but they are clearly seeing this as a row today.
I couldn't agree more. And just finally, because fair play to you, mate, for coming on, and I mean that, the Tories. What I also astounded me yesterday was Her Majesty's opposition with 121 seats who've got their conference. Where's their conference this week?
It's in Manchester. I'm going there in a few days' time.
Manchester, where apparently the big announcement from Kemi will be, I'm going to leave the ECHR. And every scribe at every news station in the world is going to stand up and go, well, I think you'll find Farage did that 6 months ago because he's on the front foot. What's happened to the Tories? The Prime Minister of this country, the majority of nearly 170 whatever, spent his whole time slagging off a man with 5 MPs. Where's the opposition?
I mean, the real danger now for Kemi Badenoch is not that she is attacked and pummeled and pulverised by opposition parties and critics. It's something even worse, tragic than that. It's fading into irrelevance totally. And for a party which has had such a strong track record of winning elections, it is the most successful party in the Western world, has essentially dominated government for the past 200 years in this country. There is now an existential risk, and that is the chatter in the Tory tribe. You chat to MPs, you chat to shadow cabinet ministers, you chat to ordinary members, donors, and they are genuinely seeing this as an existential risk, because in our two-party system, when you get beyond that inflection point where you drop out of the top two, you can drop very, very quickly. And so it's going to be a real issue for her at this conference. And I think that people will be expecting her to do something bold, to do something radical, to wave her hands and say, we're still here, we've got a plan for this country. ECHR reform, well, listen, that's very popular, but problem is, one, Nigel Farage said that he's going to do that a few months ago, and two, because we're all expecting it, it's not really going to have that big bang shock factor.
Mate, I couldn't.
That she needs.
I'm going to agree with Mike Graham, as I tend to find myself doing more so on a daily basis. He will be gone after May next year, and she won't last either. I think we're in for a really interesting time. Yeah, listen, Jack, I know you've been very professional. Back to bed, my old son. Thank you so much for being on. The Sun's political editor